a real quick breakfast today. I'm going to get my pan on now because I am working in about half an hour. I need to get out of here. So we're going to make the rose pistachio hemp seed black molasses oats that I put on my Instagram earlier this week. It got a really good response, so everyone was doing the recipe. So I'm going to do the recipe for you guys. Super simple. I'm just going to be using a few ingredients that you might need to get from a specialty supermarket. One is black molasses that I've got over here. You can get this online. Most supermarkets do stock it, but if you can't get a hold of this, don't worry. You can use simple honey or any sort of sweetener you like maple syrup as well. Just going to use a tablespoon of that. First thing you need to do is just get your pan on like a medium heat. So I would just put it in a saucepan like this. You don't need a lid for it. And the things you'll need are some whole rolled oats, super easy to get. Some black molasses if you can. I'm going to be using dried rose petals. Now, this is probably about £2 for a little bag of this, but you don't need to use that much, and just the smallest amount goes so far. So I use this to flavour harissa, obviously use it in desserts and stuff like that, sweets. It's just got this beautiful aromatic perfume to a dish. It lifts it completely. I'm going to be using coconut cream. My coconut cream comes in a little packet, but you can get the little ones that let me show you. Actually, there's only one here. The ones that you get in supermarkets. Waitrose is this one, but there are other supermarkets available where you just get a little can and stuff, and that's absolutely fine. I'm using a teaspoon of that. So to get the process going, I'm going to be using a handful of oats to start off with. Oats, lots of soluble fibre. It's a whole grain. It's a really good way of getting fibre into your diet. So there's probably been about like a handful and a half. I'm a bit of an intuitive cook. When it came to writing the cookbook, I had to struggle. I got myself like an electronic scale because I had no idea the amounts that I was putting in. But that's about probably about 30 to 40 grams of whole oats per person. So if you're doing for two, then just double up the numbers. Alright, so we'll get that going here. The difference also, I used cashew I think in my original recipe, but you can use other nuts if you like. I'm going to use sunflower seeds. Sunflower seeds, again, great fatty acid content. When we, I'm doing about half handful here. When we toast them, we release the oil slightly, and it just gives a little toasted flavour to it as well. Again, just bring out those beautiful oils. Lots of monounsaturated fats going in here. Vital part of our diet. It also has some saturated fat in as well, which is really important, but it's the amounts of saturated versus unsaturated that we want to be paying more attention to. So that goes in here, and then I'm going to put some pistachios in today as well. Pistachios, rose petals, match made in heaven. Lots of Iranian Middle Eastern cuisine use them in both savoury and sweet, and this is going to be sweet as well, but feel free to use a less expensive nut if you like. I'm just going to lightly crush this so it takes on the same sort of weight and shape of the sunflower seeds, so they all cook evenly. And if you don't have a pestle and mortar, you should have a pestle and mortar because they look really cool on your kitchen worktop, and B, they're just super important when you are using things like nuts and whole grains and stuff, just to lightly break them down. Vital for pestos. I just find when you make a pesto in, is this on? Yeah, this is on. When you make a pesto in a food blender, it just gives it a completely different texture, and that mashing texture is what you want from a pesto. I'm starting to get into my pestos quite a bit these days. Alright, so that goes in there. I'm going to add a third nut as well. I want to add some walnuts, just a little bit of this as well. These have probably been about half handful so far. So that goes in here. And again, walnuts, sunflower seeds, these are all fantastic ingredients to get into your diet as well. It's a great way to start the day. It's going to keep me satiated, it's going to suppress my hunger levels, and again I'm just going to lightly crush that down. Walnut's actually quite a nice nut to use in savoury dishes because it's quite soft, so it will break down quite easily as well. and I usually, if I don't have pine nuts that can be quite expensive, then I'll usually use walnuts instead, because it's got that same sort of texture, and you know, you can mash it with basil or sage, or I'm actually doing a couple of pestos coming out, so watch out for them. Alright, so let's get these away. I tend to like clean up as I go along, because I don't like coming back to like a messy kitchen or whatever. So I'm just going to put this over here, and I'll put this over here. I've saved a little bit of pistachio for decoration at the end. Just put that in the mortar. Alright, so the coconut cream that I'm using, I keep it in the fridge so it solidifies like this. But like I said, you can use the other one where you put teaspoons in, it's absolutely fine. The only thing with the one that you put in the fridge, you have to cut it so it turns out into like sort of like a chalky block like this, that you just crumble in, and it will just like disintegrate into the porridge, and that's what will give it like its base flavour. And then on top of that, it's going to be elevated by the rose petals. It's going to work, don't worry, I've done it loads of times. And let's get some water. Water-wise, you probably want to use about 200 to 300 mils of water. I think on one of my initial recipes, I put it as 100 mils, and that's definitely not enough. So it definitely needs to be about 200 to 300 mils. Okay, so here you'll smell the aromas just coming out here. When I touch it with my fingers, it's kind of hot to the touch, and that's what you want to aim for. So we're going to go in with our water. Now you notice I'm not using boiling water, because it will evaporate very quickly, first of all. And the other thing is, I'm not actually using almond milk today. You can use almond milk, you can use cashew milk, you can use coconut milk if you like, but it's actually quite a rich dessert with all the nuts in and everything, so it doesn't need that extra layer of weight, if you like. It can get quite thick, so feel free to use it, but I don't think you need to in this instance. But it does taste even more, you know, nice with coconut in as well. So I'm just gonna shave this coconut cream before I put it in. Put this over here. And this was probably about 2 tablespoons of coconut cream, but you can use less if you like. I'm going to try and make this as creamy as possible. And once this is all sort of, get this out. Once this is all combined, that's when you can add your rose petals. You just want to add it at the end just to lift up the flavour. I've only used half of the water so far, so I can sort of gradually dip it in and slowly cook the oats. What are we on for time? It's slowly taken about 5-6 minutes so far. I mean, I had my ingredients out, so it's a little bit of a cheat. But okay, so it's thickening just slightly, and this is when I want to just add the rest of the water and my black molasses. Now, black molasses are quite trendy these days because it's an unrefined sugar, and it's got loads of health properties like iron apparently. You know, there are, first of all, sugar is sugar, and I always say this because I think it's really important to get into people's heads that just because something is unrefined or natural doesn't mean that it has a different biochemical effect or metabolic effect in your body. So it's really important to get that across, that just because it is unrefined doesn't mean that you can have tons and tons of it. The reason why I'm using it today is because it tastes wonderful. It's got like this deep chocolatey texture to it, and the flavour is just unbelievable. It goes really, really well with things like coconut, different nuts and seeds, and the rose petal as well. So, and it completely changes the colour of these oats as well. It's like, it's just, it's delicious. Really, really good. Okay, I'll put this over here. And I'll put this back in my fridge. Okay, and this is when you want to add the rose petals. So pretty much right at the end, you're literally only going to use, I wish you could smell this, this is wonderful. You're probably only going to use enough for about half a teaspoon. I don't know if you can see that, but that's all you'll need, because it completely transforms the flavour. And also I'm going to just use a couple more right at the end just for decoration, because it makes it look so pretty. Okay, that goes in here. Okay, this is just going to simmer down until again it thickens, and just keep stirring it as it does. And then whilst that is thinning down, I'm going to just lightly crush some more pistachios. Oh, and I almost forgot one of the most important things at the end as well is hemp seed. Okay, so that goes here. Put this to one side as well. Bit of a clean freak, as you can tell. Put this over here. Alright, just keep it stirring, keep it stirring. Okay, so hemp seeds are one of my favourite ingredients as well. It's again another great source of plant-based protein. I think it's about 25% of a whole protein as well. It's fantastic. It's deliciously nutty. It's perfect for things like post-workout smoothies. I don't actually buy any smoothie powders anymore, because I use a mixture of like hemp seeds and almond butter, as well as almond milk, banana for the sugar content, that kind of stuff. So yeah, hemp seeds are just an amazing ingredient. You can put them into the mixture here, so they soften a bit. But I actually quite like the slight oily and nuttier texture when you just eat them raw. And these aren't raw; these are shelled hemp seeds anyway. So they're super easy to get hold of now. A lot of supermarkets actually stock them, but certainly you can get them online. They're pretty cheap because people are getting on the hemp seed trend. Really, that's why. All right. So this is sticking maybe a little bit longer. We are doing pretty good for time. It's probably been about 15 minutes so far. So just to recap, it's got whole oats, probably about a handful of that, and half handful of 3 different nuts and seeds. That's walnut, that's I forgot now, sunflower seeds, and pistachio. And then right at the end we're going to add, and then towards the end I added black molasses and the rose petals. I'm going to turn this off. And coconut cream as well, about 2 teaspoons of coconut cream. But use less if you wish. Alright, so this is thickened quite well. I don't know if you can see this, but even with the water, it's still got a thickness to it, so you don't need to use almond milk. Can be quite expensive though if you don't make it yourself, so just for that really. Alright, it's looking good. Great. Okay, so a little bit of pistachio on top, just seals the deal. Tiny bit of hemp, and just to pay homage to the rose petals, pretty unnecessary really, but we're going to add a tiny bit of rose petals. It's unnecessary because I've got to go to work now, but my rose petal come out here. Okay, we're just going to crumble some of these are dried rose petals, and that is it. That is phenomenal. Let me get my spoon. Put this in there. Oh, a quick trick as well is just to always put water in your saucepan afterwards, because it will stick. Okay, I'm going to go and eat this, but I'm going to move this camera out of the way now. So this is my rose oats with pistachio and hemp seed, black molasses. I need to come up with a shorter name than that. I'll put a shorter name on the tag. These are my rose oats with black molasses. Super easy to make. It's absolutely delicious. I've already made this before this week. Probably one of the nicest things I've made in a while now. Lots of healthy fatty acid, lots of fibre, perfect breakfast meal. Made it in less than 15 minutes. Really hope you like watching it, and I will catch you guys another time. See you later.
happy, spinning, clapping, laughing, dancing in the blackness of magic. Get it, have it, bag it, throw yourself on the